Jesus feeds the 5,000. One day Jesus and his disciples were out on a boat on the Sea of Galilee. They had thought to go up the coast and find a quiet place, but wherever they went, people came and followed them and called out. And Jesus took pity on them and told his disciples to beach the boat. When they reached the shore, the people cried, "Jesus, Jesus!" They sang his name again and again until he climbed a small hill and sat down. Then they gathered around him as close as they could, and he opened his mouth and taught them many things. The day went on, and Jesus taught, and it was beginning to be hot, and then it was beginning to be late. Finally, Philip and Andrew went to Jesus and whispered in his ear, "Lord, send the people away. This is a lonely place. For their own sake, send them back to their villages where they can buy something to eat." But Jesus spoke aloud and said, "Philip, how do you propose we should feed them?" The people heard that. Philip was embarrassed. "We? Lord, we cannot. Wages for 200 days is not enough to buy that much bread." "Well, how much bread do we have already?" Jesus asked. As the disciples were having this discussion, a child tugged on Andrew's robe. "Sir?" Andrew shooed the child away. The child tried again. "Sir, sir, I can help." Andrew turned to the child. "You help? Our problem is much too big for one small child." "I could share my lunch," the child said. Andrew looked at the thousands of people who had gathered on the hillside to hear Jesus teach. It was close to supper time now, and the crowd must be hungry. The disciple looked at the young boy. "All right." He put his hand on the child's shoulder and pulled him forward into the discussion with Jesus. Andrew said to Jesus, "This child would like to share their food with the people, but it's only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, not nearly enough for this hungry crowd." Jesus smiled. He said, "Tell everyone to sit down on the grass. I've got this." Jesus held the loaf and the fish up and said a prayer of thanks. Then he divided the food among the disciples, telling them to share it with all the people. They did as he instructed. The disciples went through the crowd of thousands, giving food to everyone. The people on that hillside had plenty to eat. There was so much food that there were 12 baskets full of bread and fish left over. The people had come to hear a lesson from Jesus, but instead of hearing a lesson, they saw a miracle. 2 fish and 5 loaves were miraculously multiplied by Jesus. They saw that the smallest child can bring the largest gift. Through God's power, a few loaves and fish can feed a crowd. And nothing is too small for God to use in caring for his people.